correspondence with them. He found out that the scroll was there. Actually, the manuscript was there, the codex was there, and he had them translated because that's smuggled in. Probably the Syrian government wouldn't have allowed it if they knew that the manuscript was being exported. They probably wouldn't have allowed it, but they had it smuggled in. And anyway, the Israelis got a hold of it, and it was placed in a place called the Shrine of the Document.
Shrine of the Book.
Pardon me? Shrine of the Book? Thank you. Shrine of the Book. And so it's there to this day.
It's in the Israel?
Is it? Yeah, it might be there, right? Adayim is there, right?
And the Leningrad Codex?
We're going to come to that in a second. Hold on. And so what was I saying? Yeah, but there's one misfortune that parts of it are missing. The entire book of Genesis,
the whole New Testament is missing.
So maybe this
except for parts of Deuteronomy. It starts, basically, the Aleppo Codex starts in the middle of Deuteronomy. The first 4.5 books are missing. And there's speculation here. Nobody knows what happened to this text. Some people believe that it was set on fire. Some people believe it was set on fire. But the Israelis claim that it's not set on fire. There's no evidence in the surviving parts of the manuscript that fire ever touched fire. So they think that people just that they have parts of it. They took it apart, and in fact, 2 parts of it, like one folio, several leaves of it, resurfaced in later years. One resurfaced, I think, in the 80s, and one resurfaced as recent as 2007, I believe.
2007?
Yes, I think.
A few pages.
Or maybe it was 2000.
A few pages.
Yeah, several pages. Not
Pages are
many.
still resurfacing. Just
And this is why scholars believe that the text, somebody still has it. We don't know who. But it wasn't burned, somebody has it, and they're now telling us. And maybe they're just hoarding it, and they're figuring it's going to go up in value in future years, and they can sell it for more money.
They don't want the Zionists.
I don't think so, because it's a pretty Jewish person. Yeah, the Jews were the whole.
It's not being held by Moshe Hirsch and doing hard things. It's not Mita Blige, you know?
These are pro-Israeli Jews. So the reason they're holding it back is probably for monetary purposes. That's the best idea.
Maybe the settlers are
They're just hoarding it, just like people hoarding gold, trying to...
Chaim Sabaton, Rav Chaim Sabaton, has a book on this, called The Millinery and it's not telling you, that's the story of the Codex. If you want to read it, it's worth it.
Okay, so this Codex...
No, it's a series of 3 short stories, and one of them is about the Codex, about the Keter HaRamzuvah.
Alright, so let's go a little bit into... actually, I didn't finish with the Masorties, but I might not be able to discuss everything that I have to say, so let's just jump. Maybe we'll go back to another topic. There's a thing called the Bomberg Bible. Has anyone ever heard of it?
Bomberg?
Daniel Bomberg's Bible.
Isn't that the first printed Bible?
That's correct, the first printed Bible. Does anyone know what year it was printed?
15 something, 15,
1517, right. Was Daniel Bomberg, was he Jewish?
No, Christian.
Sounds like a Jewish name, Daniel, right? He was not
Italian.
He was an Italian. He lived in Venice. In fact, the people...
Was it printed in the Hebrew language?
Yes.
What is it?
Was it printed in the Hebrew language?
Yes.
First book.
It's called the Rabbinic Bible. The reason it's called the Rabbinic is because it had the Rabbinic commentary on it. It had the Rabbinic commentary, meaning Rashi, the Onkelos, the Sifsat HaChamim, the Rashbam, the
Sifsat HaChamim was around in 1970.
Rashbam,
the
Radak, the Malbim.
The Radak. That's correct. Malbim wasn't there.
No,
the Radak was there.
The Radak was there.
David Kimchi. So that's why this was called the Rabbinic Bible. But anyway, the interesting thing about this is it's very fascinating the fact that he was Christian, but he hired all these Jews who somehow became Christian also in the process. Yes, that's correct. The very first editor of the text was Felix Pratensis, and he was a Meshumah. He was an apostate Jew, and he helped him edit the text. This was in the early 1517 or 1580.
You're not saying that they...
One. He found one of the words.
No, I'm saying...
No, he dated the fact. He hired people.
Obviously, right.
That was the way around. He said almost in a way that they became wall.
I'm not sure. You see, he might have been in the Shulchan already. I don't know exactly because, for example, the later editor, Jacob ben Chaim, he helped edit the 1525, the second edition, 1525, and that's called the Jacob ben Chaim, also the Bomberg. But at that point, he hired Jacob ben Chaim. He wrote an introduction, a very famous introduction, the Introduction to the Rabbinic Bible. It's called the Jacob ben Chaim. And Christian David Ginsburg, who lived in the 19th century, he reprints that and he provides a very commentary and explanation for that introduction to the Rabbinic Bible. But so this Jacob ben Chaim, he also became Christian much later, towards the end of his life. But at the time that he worked on the Rabbinic Bible, he was Jewish. And so the question is, why did he? First of all, why did he do it? If he was Christian, why was he interested in producing a Hebrew version? And secondly, why did he hire Jews? Right, that's probably the answer, but why did they become Christian? All of these things are so mysterious. I think that originally his intention wasn't to market it among the Jews. That's what I personally believe. I think that this was the period of the Renaissance, and the Christians were becoming increasingly interested in the source language of the Old Testament. They said to themselves, we all know that Martin Luther, for example, he urged people, he urged people to read the text directly. Don't just listen to your bishop and what he has to say. Read the text directly. He was the first translator of the text into German. First translation was done by him. And
it was not from the English.
Hold on.
No, Martin Luther translated from the Hebrew. That's correct.
But I think that was not only the first vernacular translation. No.
Right.
No. What's the English?
German. It was translated to German.
Right. No. My English was what's the name? White.
The English version didn't come out until much later.
He liberalized
the very first vernacular version of the Old Testament was by him. He translated the German, right?
Well, it was the Catholicism. They didn't want you to know. Meaning that everything is all sacrament, it's all through the priest. Everything has to go.
That's correct. So originally everything was only in Latin. The New Testament, Old Testament was only in Latin, and nobody knew that. Latin was an extinct language back then.
The New Testament was originally in Greek.
Right, originally. But by the time of the High Middle Ages, everything was Latin. The Catholic Church controlled everything, and everything in the Catholic Church, including the liturgy, everything was done in Latin. And people didn't understand Latin. And that was part of the reason why Martin Luther was so critical of the church. The church, everything was Latin, and the bishops was only Latin. Yeah, everything was controlled. So he said, right. So anyway, why am I diverging into this? What am I trying to say?
About Bomberg, about the...
I'm trying to say, so the purpose of Bomberg was to appeal to those Protestants who wanted a version that is, first of all, translated from the original Hebrew text and not from the Greek Septuagint or from the Vulgate or from some other source. And also he wanted it to be in a language people can understand. But the Protestants were very interested in Hebrew, and therefore he was trying to market it to those German Protestants who wanted to have access.
Battery.
Alright, what can I do then?
15 more minutes.
A little bit of in the 16th century, there was a cardinal, almost became pope. He worked with Gideon de Masoretic. His name is written, Elia Bacha lived in
Elijah's Levine, right?
lived in the cardinal's house for 10 years. So there was to be fair to the Catholics, there was a period when the Catholics were interested in the same sort of work. Yes, it was.
Yeah. I mean, I'm generalizing. I can't go into details. There might have been a Catholic who...
It was about 100 years.
For the most part, the popes did not sanction a translation of the Bible into the vernacular.
He didn't become pope.
Maybe in later years they modified it, but originally it was only the Protestants who were interested in that. Anyway, so he hired Jews because the Jews had a very intimate knowledge of Hebrew. In fact, the very early Protestant Christians, they had their teachers were Jews. They hired a Jew to teach them Hebrew. How else would they learn Hebrew? And so he originally appealed to them. But later, Jacob ben Chaim was originally he lived in Spain, and he exiled. There was actually all these persecutions in Spain. He wound up in Tunis, and then from there he made his way to Venice, and that's where he was hired by Bomberg, and he was instrumental in working on the Masorties. Now, Jacob ben Chaim, he did not copy the Aleppo Codex or the Leningrad Codex that we're going to mention later, because those